Saturday evening, everybody. Welcome back to the. I got ahead of myself. Welcome back to another edition of the Opinionated Idiot YouTube live show here. We're back on the mothership. I'm going to welcome everybody in. I see the chat is blazing. Hello to all my mods. Hello to all my chatters. The chat room will fill in as we go on the show. It is May 20th, 2023. Wow, what a crazy 72 hours it's been. It's been nuts. Have you guys been following this? Have you been reading all the new documents, the dumps? Did you see the Dateline episode last night? What did you all think? We're going to get a little bit into the Dateline episode, but we're going to save that for tomorrow night. And we're going to have Laura back on the panel. She's here this evening. What's going on, Laura? How are you?
Greetings, Earthlings. I'm doing great tonight.
I feel like it's been forever since we've had a stream together. And my God, the last 72 hours have been crazy in the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger world. We have an indictment. Laura. What do you think?
Much has happened. What do I think? Well, I'm not surprised. However, I'm disappointed in that we won't get to hear everything for the preliminary hearing. However, we don't know what's going to happen with the gag order on Monday. New judge? Who knows? Judge, John Judge, Triple J.
Triple J.
Maybe Triple J will, get rid of the gag order. Maybe he'll keep it. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what happens on Monday.
Yes, and Giovanna says, "Hi, Laura. Looking good. Beautiful hair."
Thank you, Giovanna.
And I definitely think that as well. Hair's looking really flowing this evening. Looks great. Everybody's checking in. They're saying, "Hey, Brian, Harry, we're so glad to be here." Chosen Rosen's in the house. Agent Chase, yes, she's back in the house.
Yes.
And let's see. Glenda is saying, "Please just don't mention the Amazon receipt. That was actually a search warrant." Okay, so we'll get into that tomorrow night on the Dateline show. We'll talk a little bit about this evening, but we have a wonderful presentation planned for this evening. But yeah, so I wanted to actually just get your, where were you when you heard the indictment? What were you doing? What did you think when you heard it? What was your natural gut and reaction inside?
Well, I had said before, one day we'll probably just wake up and the news will be there's been a grand jury was convened and they have an indictment. So when I woke up Wednesday morning, the first thing I did was, of course, go into the Discord chat.
Yeah.
Maybe it made me a little running behind that morning, but it was well worth it. And then I wasn't able to pay attention to much of anything on Wednesday. I was tied up with some stuff, but I was excited. I was anxious. I just couldn't wait to read everything and spend some time just alone with the Idaho webpage.
Yeah. I woke up. I had planned a stream on that at noontime because I was doing some lunchtime content for everybody. Planned the stream and I got up. And again, I always check the Discord in the morning because I know a lot of our chatters like to chat really late into the night. I woke up and it was like, whoa, what's going, the rumor was spinning that there's going to be an indictment. And I was like, okay. And Banfield, late into that morning, 2:00 in the morning, I think dropped a tweet and said possible indictment coming. And I was like, okay, let me look at this. So I researched it. Then I look at Coffin Daffer. She was confirming that indictment was coming. So someone obviously was talking to both of them, probably a court clerk or something like that. They have their sources and inside information. I went to go live and literally 10 minutes before I went live, because I wanted to make sure it was a newsprint, because if it was in a newsprint or an article, I could say it's definite. I waited 10 minutes before I went live, and all of a sudden I saw the Fox News article, and literally my heart skipped a beat. I was like, oh my God, there's an indictment, and I'm about to go live with this news and basically break it at lunchtime for everybody. And I go live and if you go back and listen to that stream, I'm and I showed you the other night, I was literally gasping, just holding my breath back. And I was like, oh my God, this is an indictment. And it's it is. I think that the reaction out of me came, I look back when I started covering this case 4.5 months ago, and the hours of streaming and sleuthing and just meeting all these wonderful people in our chat, meeting them in the Discord, meeting you, and it's like we've done such hard work into these shows, and really we want to make exceptional presentations for these shows, because like we want to put forth a product out there that's good for Opinionated Idiot. And it's like, wow, like, oh my god, we're at this stage where we thought this was going to be a little bit a little bit longer. So
I was telling everybody that I would see, oh, did you guys hear Bryan Kohberger's getting indicted, or he was indicted? And they just look at me like, "Oh, okay, sure. I thought he
mm,
already was." Like, because not everybody pays as closely attention to this case as we do. So I think all those in the chat and all of our members and everybody will all know, they know how exciting this was.
mm.
No matter how you feel about this, they know it was exciting. It was like a Christmas morning. We woke up and got this crazy news. So
Mhm.
I'm excited. I just want the case to move forward and see what all's there.
Yeah, and I was going to say that, here it's the type of thing where we're one step closer to justice, and that's for a couple of things. It's one, for the victims of this heinous crime, and two, it now gives the opportunity, because remember, Bryan Kohberger is still innocent until proven guilty, and this now gives him the opportunity to defend himself against these charges. And again, I've said this before, um if uh if Bryan Kohberger uh is not guilty, then we need to keep investigating this and looking. I guess some people are saying my volume is too low, so let me just take care of that issue really quick. I'm gonna pump up the volume. Great movie, by the way. Is this better for everybody? Just let me know. Give me a thumbs up if we're there. I don't want to be too loud. I've been trying to, because I talk very loud anyway. I just don't want to be too loud. Is that better? Just give me a thumbs up if it sounds better to you guys. So yeah, really, I mean, that's where I kind of sit with the indictment. And of course, on Monday, it looks like there's now 3 scheduled hearings. I saw some updates: 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and 11 a.m. The 9 a.m. is going to be basically the formal indictment. He will be
Yes.
formally charged. He will be able to give his statement of guilty or not guilty, and then the trial date will be set. And then it looks like there's going to be a gag order hearing at 10 and 11 a.m. I know the one is the response to the media, and the second, I believe, is the Goncalves family, correct? At 11.
Um, I'm not 100% certain. I don't know if the motion to compel evidence
Yeah.
is in there, but I know that they took the uh, the hearings that were on Megan Marshall's schedule, who's the magistrate for Latah County, and moved it right to Judge's um, docket. It
Right.
just, I mean, it was just so seamless and easy for them to just slide them right over to Judge.
Right. Um, So yeah, I mean, like I said, I wanted to reach, just kind of start off with that. I haven't spoken to you since this all. Well, I mean, backstage. I mean, we've talked on
Yeah.
like chatter, but not really a on-camera conversation about this. And like I said, it's now going to move forward, and Monday's going to be really the big day. And the thing that you have to think about, this is really going to be the first time that we're going to see video of Bryan Kohberger since January. And the things that I said the other day on my show is like, take note. Uh, is his physical appearance going to be different? What is his mental state going to appear to be like? Is there any changes in his physical characteristics or the way that he's handling himself? I noticed in previous videos that we saw him, minus the body cam stuff, but his court appearances, that he was very observant. He's a very observant person. He's well aware of his surroundings around him at all times. His eyes are always checking where cameras are. And I noticed some body language too, where the final time that we see him, when he leaves after his final hearing, he actually like pushes his chair in. So he's very
Mhm.
aware of his environment. What do you
Absolutely.
think about stuff like that?
I definitely think you can learn a lot from somebody's body language.
Hmm.
If I mean, and obviously if it wasn't reliable, we wouldn't have body language experts and everything, but you can tell a lot from someone just by their tone, by the way they carry themselves, little subtleties, micro expressions, that type of thing.
Mm.
There's definitely something in it because you can be upset and you can say you're not upset, but are you truly able to hide it?
Right. Right. So just want to let everybody know, Christine Brown is now a channel moderator. She's earned a wrench. So Christine, welcome back to the moderator team. Everybody give her a thumbs up and a
Yay,
congratulations. We'll do that for
Christine.
her. So we're going to do that for her. And I'm sure that will make her very happy. All right, let's move on. We got, we're going to go to a video from a new video of Steve Goncalves, an interview that Banfield had with him. And I think this is very important to bring this up as we get into Monday, because we're so close to
Mhm.
Monday. But before I move on, I just want to take care of a little housekeeping here. Okay. I just want to make a formal statement for the Opinionated Idiot YouTube channel. And I really want people to understand how important this is, because one, this channel is growing. Okay, it's I don't want to sound like, oh, it's obvious. The channel's growing. We're very close to 5,000 subscribers. Believe it or not, we're at 4,928. We're getting there. So more people are going to come here, and there's going to be different personalities, and there's going to be different people that may not have the same opinions or views that we have. We have to try to do this in a respectful way as much as we can. I can't police everything. I just can't do it. It's not feasibly possible for me to police 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people. Unfortunately, in the world of YouTube, some of the things that come along with it is kind of territory for the game. I don't want to sound like a jerk saying that, but it's kind of, it is what it is type of stuff. But let me say this formal statement so everybody understands where I myself am coming from on this channel, and what my vision is and what my point of doing this is. So to my members and subscribers, I kindly request your attention to a few matters of housekeeping. I would like to remind everyone that this channel consists of individuals of diverse backgrounds, races, colors, creeds, sexual orientations, and etc. I just want to kind of get that across the board. Therefore, I kindly ask for you to avoid posting or engaging in any discussions or activities that are unrelated to ongoing case discussions and may not contribute to productive conversations. Personally, it is extremely difficult for me to keep track of every member and subscriber's actions across YouTube and away from this channel. I am unaware of their discussions outside of my channel and my Discord chat room due to the impossibility of monitoring all of the chats, chat rooms, posts, and activities on YouTube constantly. I recommend this: reach out directly to the individual or individuals involved and express your concerns privately. If the matter remains unresolved, please provide specific evidence related to issues solely and only based with this channel, meaning chat room chatter in live chats or Discord or comments on my pages. And I'll tell you right now, I'm going to tell everybody right now, I look at all of the comments because I approve them. And if there's any like swearing or spam, I get them out. I want to make sure that this is a productive and safe environment. We're all adults, so let's try to keep it that way. So I can only monitor, and I just want to make this very clear for everybody. I feel like I'm Donald Trump right now. I can only make this very clear for everybody. I can only monitor this channel in my Discord. That's it. I don't know what other people are doing in the Lawyer chat room. I don't know what people are doing on Drunk Turkey. I don't know what people are doing on Publicly Buzzed when they chat. It's impossible. I cannot control that. There's almost 5,000 people here. I can't watch 5,000 people. One, I work 40 plus hours a week. And in next week, I'm going to be working 60 plus hours a week and live streaming to try to keep content going on this channel. Can't do it. So listen, we all have to be adults. The average age on this channel is between 38 and 45 years old. I would suggest this: If you have an issue with someone that's on this channel or in the Discord group, privately reach out to them. There's a lot of great people in this group. I'm sure they'll understand if they said something that offends you or whatever and work through it. But if it can't get worked through and the someone is rude to you, screenshot it and send it to me. And then I will deal with them privately. I don't want to hear about what someone's doing on Bananas for Now or jump up a tree or whatever. Like I don't care about those channels. I only care solely on my base content here. So hopefully everybody gets a very good understanding of that. I don't really want to continue to address this because I can't. I just can't do it. We're all adults. You know how to, we've worked through all of these things in our lives. We've worked through all of these issues in our lives. Be an adult, reach out to the person. If it can't get solved, I will jump in and mediate and try to figure out in an adult way. But it's got to be something that's like clearly racist or clearly this or whatever. Not saying that any of that activity is happening on this channel, just saying. And we're going to come across people as this journey goes on across all walks of life. Believe me, there's a million people that come in this chat that I don't agree with. And there's probably some people that come in to troll and I don't like, but we take care of it. It's not, make a big frenzy out of this. I'm kind of done with this. Let's move past it. Be adults. You need to do some policing yourself. Reach out to the person. We get a lot of great people. I'm sure they'll understand if they say, hey, you know what, something you said in the room or something in the chat. Other than that, I don't know. What do you think, Laura? I mean, help me out.
I mean, yeah, it gets tough. I mean, I try to keep up with the main chat in Discord, and
Right.
I find that I'm usually a few hours behind. I'm usually immersed in
Yeah.
reading the documents or, with my job or with my daughters or doing something around the house or running a child somewhere. And I'm not afraid to call people out if I
Sure.
see something
Me
that's
too.
really bad.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
I mean, it's just common courtesy. We all don't have to agree. We truly do not all have to agree, but we just have to respect one another and respect that everybody is different and that's their choice. And that's what's so beautiful about this country. Vote for me. No, I'm kidding. But no, that's what our country's all about, respecting other people. And, just because you don't like the way somebody is or something they're affiliated with doesn't mean you have to hate on them. So
Yeah,
I have no idea. I have not seen anything.
I have
Maybe I
not.
missed it. So I'm just saying, like, I teach teenagers, and
Right.
adults or 20 somethings. And oh yeah, I've
Unfortunately,
seen it all.
unfortunately, when something grows and more people come in, there's gonna be people that you don't like. You know what I do, Laura? I just ignore them and I
Yeah.
don't address it. There are people that you're gonna come across all walks of life that will push your buttons constantly, and you just need to ignore it. But if it gets to a point that there's something that is abusive towards someone, I will handle it. I will give them a warning once, and if they don't change their activity or their attitude, they're gone. So if you've tried to mediate with the person and they're not working with you, send me some screenshots of the conversation and I will get involved. So hopefully this cuts all that. We don't have to get to that point. It's done. Um, this is why I didn't want to have a Discord group. I'm joking. All right, let's move on with the show. Hopefully we've gotten that settled. I really don't want to keep addressing this, so it's just a little crazy. It's a little crazy. We have more important things to do. Let's get back to investigating the Bryan Kohberger case. So this here is a new video from Steve Goncalves. It was on Banfield about a day ago. I think this is an
Not
important
to pry
video
and
that I do want to play for everybody. Let's play this and get closer to our presentation.
not to pry and ask which of the girls you were talking to, but did she give details about some of what she's been processing in these 6 months?
Well, between all the different families, I think both girls are talking. They're talking to somebody. One might be talking to me, one might be talking to someone else. So
I just want to stop the video, and I get yelled at when I stop the video when I talk, but I'm giving my commentary because it's a live show. What Steve is talking about here is Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, the two girls, the two surviving girls. They're talking. That's a good thing because in this video, you're going to get a little bit of information here. And you'll notice Steve has changed a lot. And it seems like he's a little bit more calmer, and he's a little bit, more, I think, understanding of what happened that evening. So let me go back a little bit, and we'll take this to the top.
Well, between all the different families, I think both girls are talking. They're talking to somebody. One might be talking to me, one might be talking to someone else. So I think we have a good understanding of some of the details that haven't been made public, but we're just holding it close to the chest, and we're making sure that everything goes through the court processes and everybody gets a fair shot, and everything is done in the right order to mothers and fathers that really don't have any idea how this should work. We never seen ourselves in this spot, and we're just living one day by day.
There's no playbook, for this, and it's a very exclusive club. I often say, very unwelcome, exclusive club that you're a member of, Steve. You are. I don't know where you get the strength and the fortitude, but you were there when Kohberger made that first appearance in January. Are you planning to be there on Monday?
Yeah, I'm going to stick to the message that this family will do everything in its power to make sure that if everything rolls out and we know for a fact with the evidence that this is the person, then he's got pit bulls after him. So we're going to be there at every moment, analyzing.
Laura, I really like Steve's approach in this, because he's not saying like he's the guy. He's still saying if this is the guy. And I have to give him a lot of credit, as much as the emotions that he's probably dealing with right now. I think he's approaching this in a very, man, it's tough, very, I guess, adult way. What do you think about that?
He's I just blanked for a moment, like I glitched right there.
Download.
Yeah, exactly. I think that he is staying composed and also trying to stay a little neutral, because he understands he is the figurehead of this case in some ways. Like, he's been the most, he's the one that's put himself out there. Besides the victims and the witnesses, it's Steve Goncalves' face on this, and he's really trying to, stay neutral and let everybody know, the justice system serves a purpose, and he's not going to convict somebody in his own personal court. So that's what I believe. Also, this comment here, the girls, the two girls, we'll call them the witnesses, Dylan and Bethany, they're allowed to talk to the Goncalves family. They're just not allowed to go to public.
Yeah,
so the gag order just forces them from, now if they went on Dateline, they'd be in trouble.
A lot of trouble.
But they can talk to the other families, like that whole group of families and witnesses are allowed to talk to each other. They just can't go and give case information to the public. And what he's doing here, he's not really giving any information, just his feelings. And there's not a lot of information in this. Like,
Yeah,
I want to say it's not a lot of information. He's not giving case information.
Right. And listen, if my daughter was brutally murdered and someone was there, you're damn right, I would like to know what happened, or the information, if you could fill in some gaps for me. And I'm sure that they'd be very happy to provide that and kind of give them that information. And nothing, like Laura was saying, nothing is being made public, so they're free to talk on their own. They're free to talk on their own. Okay, let's keep playing through this here.
Using every piece of data, going through everything to make sure that it is the right person, and we hold them accountable. And that kind of pressure has to come from more than just one parent. It has to come from all of us, and that's what we're working on. I know on Monday I won't be the only parent down there. There'll be other families there, and I think it's a moment of solidarity that we're getting more and more people active, and you got to give people time to figure out how they want to respond and how they're going to just wake up and deal with an everyday situation. But they're all starting to get their power and their strength, and they're all ready to go to court. And I think that courtroom's going to get more and more crowded.
Do you mind me asking if you know what other parents are planning to be there Monday?
I don't want to put them on the hook in case they wake up that morning and they don't feel like going. But I know of 2 other families that are planning on being there. We're organizing even the path that we get down there together. So anything can happen, and everyone has the ability to decide to change their mind. But I'll be there. I won't be changing my mind, and we'll have at least 9 seats of us there. And I hope that some of the other families feel that the more uncomfortable we can make this room, and the more that we can represent each person that was robbed of their lives, the best we can do. I mean, it's not going to fix the situation, but there should be some accountability when you take people that are special.
We've been showing some of the pictures of the scene of the crime, which will be featured heavily in this trial. I know the university was going to keep you updated as to the plans to demolish 1122 King Road. They said it would happen during the semester. Now the semester is over. Have they kept their word at the university and kept you informed about the plan for the demolition? And as well as that, have all the parents been able to pick up their kids' belongings for the final time?
We have not been able to pick those things up, which we would understand that might be very close to the moment that it's down, that it's going to be torn down, like maybe equipment's moving in. So we've pushed back a little bit just because different parents have seen different court cases and have tried to get themselves self-educated on what we're going to go through. And they've found cases where important evidence had been discovered, and they went back to the crime scene and actually it clarified things for different jury members. I don't know the exact story, but I just know that that's a reality that has been spoken to me. So we pushed back and said, hey, let's wait on this until at least everybody's on the same page, including the defendant. I want the defendant to be able to say, there's nothing in that house that's important to us. I want the truth. We want the right person. So we have every motion to sit back and say, hey, we can slow this down. We don't have to rush anything. I understand it's a little difficult for the community, but we all have to come together, and we have to do what's right for these young adults that were put in this situation, and we're the only voices that they have. So we've asked to slow that down, and they've respected that.
Steve Goncalves, it's good to see you again and talk to you again. I can't thank you enough for volunteering to be on this program with us. And I know that a lot of the people who are watching right now, if you can feel it, they're sending their love to you just like we are as well. And to Christy and the kids as well. Our best to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's just such a heartbreaking interview that we have to see that man like that. He's just a different stage, and he's at a different stage of grief. I'm not going to say he's ever going to move past it, but I think, I think he's getting a better understanding of hearing, the evidence and knowing what probably went on that evening, and getting himself ready to, face this potential suspect, in court, and getting his eyeballs on him. And, I'll just be curious if he's going to continue to do any interviews as the trial rolls on. So, okay. So what we're going to do next is there was via Court TV. I really don't like using their stuff because their guy's a little boring. There was a body language expert that came on and get some opinion about her, what she thinks about Kohberger in his recent body cam footage video.
Killer in the Idaho student's case had. That was some video about a month before the murders. And what I want to do is take a look at his interaction with police before the murders and after the murders with our guest joining me in Los Angeles, California. forensic psychiatrist. No. Joining us in Alexandria, Virginia, body language expert, New York Times bestselling author of You Can't Lie to Me. That is Janine Driver. Janine, great to see you.
Nice to see you, Vinny.
All right, so we're going to do the before. We've got a couple of clips before, then one clip after. This, again, is the accused killer. And again, one of the stories that and prosecutors are saying, he was in the area many times, sort of inferring that they believe he was, planning this thing out a little bit. So let's take a look first. This is a month before, stopped by the Washington State University police.
So would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck like in their intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done be? Just
you're not supposed to block an intersection like that in Washington. So just by you blocking the intersection, that's technically a ticketable violation. And then you're running a red light. So it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go. Because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then turns, and then you're blocking. So
yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn. So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through.
Oh.
Did you see that?
No.
I feel like right before I made the turn, there was someone who made a right. They didn't have their, their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up. And not.
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation because you're either going to back up into somebody or you're going to run a red light. So, or you're going to be sitting in an intersection. Yeah. There's not really a great option there.
Yeah, I was just slightly into the crosswalk. So, where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh.
So even if you're kind of slightly, there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines. Like there's one white line and there's another one. Like there's like a certain margin from which you can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
Yeah. So I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through when you don't when you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage. I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
Yeah. I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, I can find it for you. Yeah. 1 second.
Okay, Janine, what did you see? What did you hear?
Now, to the everyday person, you might see this and say, hey, this is normal. This is how I would respond, possibly trying to build rapport to get out of a ticket and ask a lot of questions. There's a couple things here that we see in this clip, and I think we're going to carry one of them over to the next clip. One is a tongue protrusion, and I think we'll talk about it again in the next clip. He stuck his tongue out briefly. We'll talk about that. Just hang tight. But before that, when he talks about someone had stopped in front of him, he does this little micro expression, Vinny and you at home, where his upper lip comes up and he flashes his teeth. And this is something we saw Cato Kalin do on the stand, going back old school here with O.J. Simpson, when Marsha Clark was asking questions. Hey, isn't it true that you've got this book deal or this some type of a deal? You're making money out of this case. And he does this snarl. When the upper lip comes up and we see the teeth like this is a combination between anger and disgust, and that equals scorn. So, and we have this tiny little sneak peek of scorn, which is very intriguing to what's to come a month later. The other thing I'd like to talk about here is his eyes open wide. Look right here. You're seeing the three whites, we call it in law enforcement, the inner part of the eye, the outer part, and underneath. If we look at Vinny's eyes right now and mine, you'll notice you don't see three whites of our eyes. This happens right here when we're under stress. You were just pulled over for a ticket. Makes sense, right? Fear or surprise, it usually indicates something is wrong. Again, pulled over for a ticket, probably scouting out the area here on the college campus. O.J. Simpson, going back to him, he did this in the civil case when he was shown a picture of himself wearing Bruno Megli shoes walking on a football field, when in the criminal case, he said he never owned those ugly shoes. Yet they all of a sudden show, according to him, he called them ugly, and with a swear word that I won't say here. And all of a sudden, the civil case, they're showing him a picture. You see OJ, look at the picture and look up, and you see those three whites. This is, something is wrong. I just got busted. Again, it could make sense for the ticket, but it hangs out. Look at this. This is hanging out the entire conversation, the three whites. He knows there's a problem here. and trying to build that rapport to get out of it.
Okay, Janine, what we're going to do now, that was more of the video. We're going to go to the after one now. This is a video of a traffic stop after the murders, and interested to see if you notice any difference in the way he is, in what you see and what you hear. So let's watch.
Hello. How you doing? How y'all doing today? Good, good. Take a look at your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on that van, man. He was right up on the back end of that van. Pulled you over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay, cool. Where are you headed?
Well, we're coming from WSU, and we're scanning.
What's WSU?
University, basically. That is SWAT team and everything.
So we're okay. I'm having a hard time hearing you because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University?
Yeah.
And you're going where? Oh.
We're going to be going to Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're slightly punchy because we're driving for hours.
Hours, days.
Hours to drive. Well,
yeah.
Almost a day.
Okay. And what did you say about some SWAT team thing? Or
yeah, there was a man shooting and everything.
Where?
I'm going to pause it for a second. He seemed like a nervous Nelly. A nervous Nelly. What do you think,
Yeah.
Laura?
I think he appears like he's trying to get out of the situation as fast as possible. He is looking at his dad like, shut up. Exactly. He's probably thinking, Dad, just enough.
Yeah.
And his dad actually seems like a rather nice guy, just saying, hey, we're coming from WSU and we're heading to Pennsylvania. This was a bonding trip. And, we're what was the word he used there? They were, they were in the car for how many hours? So,
Days,
yeah. So, his dad is acting quite as expected. Where you paused it,
I think his dad probably shows a little bit of nervousness. Like there's a cop, we got pulled over and we don't want to do anything wrong, like that type of stuff.
He's not showing any signs of aggression or anything though. Like, and like just the two different expressions. They're not matched. Their expressions do not match each other.
Yeah. And listen, we're not body language experts. We're just giving our own, one-on-one analysis. I'm not saying anybody's guilty. We're not attorneys. We're not body language experts. This is just water cooler talk, what our opinions are.
Absolutely.
The thing that you have to look at in this too, and this might sound weird, okay, and I probably get some shit for this, but you got to kind of feel bad, for what his family's going through too.
Absolutely.
Like, right now, as it is, like they didn't ask for this either. If their son did do this, and I'm probably put a lot of strain on his parents. We know that one of his sisters was fired from her job without any really explanation. So, this has affected their family as well too, and it's affected so many people. Not only, the families, their friends, their community, Idaho in general. It's the universities. It's crazy.
The Kohbergers are victims regardless of the outcome. Regardless of the outcome, they are victims, and they're going to experience loss either way, depending on what kind of loss. But yeah, their family is wrecked as well.
Oompa Loompa says the panel guest is good. She is good. She is good. All right, let's keep playing through. We'll finish this and we're going to get to our presentation. What everybody came for.
Interesting.
Well, it's horrifying because he's supposed to be university, you know what I mean?
So y'all work at the university there?
Actually, we work there.
Oh.
He was PhD.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that incident. Just yesterday, or?
This happened this morning. About an hour and a half ago. We're still wrapping it up for investigating. I'm not sure there's two shooters because they did shoot somebody.
Let's see.
And then we didn't know about that actually. They were there shooting out of the window or something.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. So do me a favor and don't follow too close, okay? All right. Thank you.
Okay, I still can't get over the fact that when he's asked where you're going, we're going to get some Thai food. You've got, I think he's got Washington State plates at this point. He's from Pennsylvania and he's in Indiana. Okay, that aside, Janine, what'd you see? What'd you hear?
All right, let's start with what I heard this time. So we make sure we get it in because I have the gift of gab, as you know. The producers usually tell me to wrap it up. Basically, these LY words, be very careful of those. Basically, we don't give raises the first year. That indicates sometimes you make an exception and you do give raises. I want to be the exception. I call these the wiggle words, usually, typically, normally. And he says, basically, this is what we did. That indicates to me, this LY particular here, this adverb, that there's something else he was doing. He uses the word actually 3 times. Actually, Vinny compares 2 different things. Let me do a quick test with you, Vinny. Did you buy the red car or the blue truck? Actually, I bought the red car. What is the other thing I'm comparing it to? Did you buy the red car or the blue truck?
Blue car, there's 2 choices.
Right. So this actually, I mean, is comparing 2 things. You buy the red car, the blue truck. I bought the red car. Actually, I bought the red car as opposed to the blue truck. When people throw in this actually where it doesn't belong, it's indicating he was really someplace else. Actually, what we were just doing was this. No, that's not what you were doing because we don't know. He's comparing it to something we don't know. If I was in law enforcement, Phil, I would teach this officer to ask as opposed to what? Because he threw in that actually. Not only did he do it once, Vinny, and you at home, he said it 3 times. Normally, we can think there's an LY there. Normally, we can figure out what it is. Did you have fun at the party? Actually, I had a good time. Maybe they thought they weren't going to have a good time. But here, this is very suspicious. Now let's talk about body language. He's not breathing. Look at him. It's as if no air is coming into him. I'm even watching his throat. And this happens a lot with deception and high stress. People forget to breathe. We do see the 3 whites of the eyes right here. And he does this move that I did see earlier and didn't get to talk about, which is this tongue protrusion. This tongue out, this jutting of the tongue. This is someone's got caught and they made a mistake or getting away with something or deep concentration. If you've ever threaded a needle, imagine threading a needle. You've got the eye of the needle in front of you. You've got the thread. You stick out your tongue. So we've got this deep concentration, or he thinks he's getting away with something, or he just got caught. A lot happening right here. The fact he's not even breathing and he's so stiff. Now, looking away, I throw that away because he's on a busy road here. The everyday person is going to look to make sure that they're safe. So that behavior I'm going to ignore. But this lack of breathing, the wrinkled in the forehead right here is high stress. We didn't even see it in the first time, but we're seeing it here. And then, of course, this tongue protrusion. And the big one for me, the smoking gun is the word actually. I wrote it down and did my little 3 tick marks. This is huge. And these LY words, if you go back to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, she loved the LY word. Right? So be careful of listening to people closely, what they're saying. If someone says, typically we can't give raises in the first year, you might be able to get yourself a raise. My name's Janine. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
All right. Actually, we have to go to a break right now, Janine. So
see what he did there? He threw an LY in the end. He threw an LY in the end. All right. Let's move on. I just shut the video down. I'm sorry, buddy. If you want to go back, I can send you the link later if you want to look at it. But I want to kind of move the show along. But I'll send you the link, buddy. I promise you that. All right, let's do this presentation, Laura. We're going to talk about the DNA request for discovery. I want to make this very hang on one second. Okay. So just before we get into this, I want to let everybody know we're not attorneys, we're not lawyers, we're not experts. We're people that look over documents and just kind of connect X, Y, and Z. But let's pull this up. And again, these exercises are things that people can do at home if they just look through and read the documents, all the documents that are out there. You're going to get me yawning now.
Sorry.
All right, let's pull this up and start going through it. So we have the request. We have the request for DNA. And I'm going to let you kind of take the lead on this, since this was kind of your, she gave me the facts. I put the presentation together. Laura's going to be able to kind of walk you through this a little bit more than there, but we'll kind of go through this. So first slide we're going to go to is the state's response to defendant's third supplemental request for discovery. Now, this is for the discovery of DNA. I know there's been a lot of chatter about this, so let's try to clear up some of this for everybody. Go ahead, Laura.
Well, it looks like we have an LY word circled. So this was on May 12th, where the states responded to the defendant's third supplemental request for discovery. It says, I hate to just read stuff, but in regard to the specific request for standard lab discovery, the state has already provided the defense with everything it has received from the FBI. Okay, we'll skip down through here. It says the state has provided the Idaho State Police Lab with a copy of the defense's standard lab discovery comprised of paragraphs 1 through 10 and will supplement discovery as appropriate. So as they get more in, they are going to send it to the defense. The state specifically objects to the request for personnel-related information as outside the scope of ICR 16 unless and to the extent that the lab personnel will be offering expert testimony which is discoverable under ICR 16B10. So basically what it's saying is they're specifically objecting to the request for the HR documents behind the lab techs. That the defense does not need that. So then we take a look at what the actual third supplemental request for discovery is in the next slide.
Do we want to address this first? Because this viewer seems very angry at us that we're doing this.
Using the DNA. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. They used there was a chain of events that happened that they used the DNA they had, and they went from X to Y to Z, but they're saying we have so much more, we don't necessarily need X.
Right. All right, let's move to the next slide here. Okay, so if you want to take everybody through this.
This is the part that they're talking about. The state is specifically talking about laboratory personnel. The defense wanted background information for each person involved in conducting or reviewing the DNA testing performed in this case, including their current resume, performance evaluation and personnel file, and a summary of proficiency test results. So the prosecution is basically saying, you don't need their resume, you don't need their performance evaluation, their employee file, you don't need their test results. Like this is irrelevant to what we're doing. And like as this presentation goes on, you'll see why they're saying this. They're saying unless we're saying that this laboratory personnel is pulled in as an expert witness on DNA, that you don't need this info. And if we would put them in on as an expert witness, we'll gladly give you all that information. And I think that's where it goes into the next slide.
Excuse me.
So this is what ICR, Idaho Criminal Rule 16B10 states. It says if the defendant showing substantial need in the preparation of the defendant's case for additional material or information not otherwise covered by this rule, that the defendant is unable without undue hardship to obtain the substantial equivalent by other means, the court may order the additional material or information to be made available to the defendant. So if they determine that the lab personnel would be called as the expert witness, they would offer to provide the defendant with all that information, but only then. So they're saying you don't need all their info.
Okay.
It seems to be a theme we're seeing here too as well.
Okay. So this is where Laura's pointing out all of those little like subliners in the document.
So this is also on May 12th, the state's response to the defendant's third supplemental request for discovery. In regards to the defense's request for genetic genealogy testing and search, the state objects and intends to separately file a motion in limine and motion for protective order. So we got to figure out what those two are under ICR 16.1. Let's see here. It says the state believes the defendant's requested discovery is outside the scope of ICR 16 completely. It does not tend to negate the guilt of the accused as to the offense charged or tend to reduce punishment. And it talks about 16A. It's not material to the preparation of the defense. None of the documentation being sought belongs to the defendant as contemplated by ICR 16B4. Genetic genealogy research does not constitute reports of examination or tests under ICR 16B5, and any genetic genealogy research is exempt from the disclosure under ICR 16G2. So what does all this mean? So now we have to take all these things and dissect them to figure out what exactly the state is saying. So this is what the defense wanted. One of the big things here is the name and address of all persons found to have sufficient sharing centimorgams with the subject profile to be identified as a match in the report created in this case. If any of you have been on 23andMe or Ancestry.com, you know that you will get matches and it will show you how much you have in common with them by the number of centimorgams. It's just a fancy term for like how much of your DNA is shared with somebody else. So like your mother, father, you would share like 50% ish. We're not going to get into that, but I'm just saying 50% ish. Siblings would be rated at, a certain one. And then aunts, uncles, cousins, everything there's a way to see how far away you're related to somebody based upon the number of centimorgams you have in common with them.
Mhm.
So that is what they're looking for. They want the name and address of all the people that have found to match the subject profile.
Mhm.
Okay. So now we're going to go to the next one. A motion is in limine is just a pretrial motion asking that certain evidence be found inadmissible and that it not be referred to or offered at trial. So what is the evidence that they're really objecting? Like that's saying it doesn't need to be offered at trial? There's also a motion for a protective order. It says the motion for protective order refers to a party's request that the court protect it from potentially abusive action by the other party. Such a request is often made in relation to discovery as when one party seeks discovery of the other party's trade secrets. So this has to do with how they match things, not who, but how. Like if Pepsi and Coke had a lawsuit against each other, Pepsi couldn't say to Coke, "Hey, we need your trade secret in order to go through with this lawsuit." No. You don't need that. So therefore, Ancestry.com, 23andMe, among other DNA websites, they all have their own way of doing things.
Mhm.
And because they're a trade secret, they don't have to disclose them.
Hmm.
So that's what this is about.
Okay.
Nobody's being protective. It's what?
So this is
So-
RIC 16A.
Yeah, so 16A is what is it? And it's basically everything that we've already heard. It's mandatory disclosure of evidence and material by the prosecution. We could go through that whole thing, but it's just saying that the prosecution has to give the defense everything.
Okay. Then we're going to go to 16B.
So,
So again, just so I can remind everybody, I'm going to go back and just show the document that we're breaking down really quick if people are lost, like what the hell's going on. So this is the document that we're talking about. This document here. We're breaking down all the little, I call them articles or notations inside what this document is.
So to recap, we have the motion in limine, which means the prosecution's going to say, hey, we're not even going to include a certain part of this in it. And it's irrelevant to the defense. So move on.
Mhm.
Protective order, we're not going to give trade secrets. Move on.
Mhm.
16A, we're aware that we have to share things with you, but this is not relevant. And now we have the last three to look at.
16B. Okay.
So we'll go down through the last three.
Let's get there. 16B. Okay. Disclosure of evidence and materials by the prosecution or on written requests.
So the prosecution attorney or the prosecutor must at any time following the filing of charges disclose the following information. So that's this, same gist of what we're saying.
And then we move to
16B4.
IRC 16B4.
So it's all the documents and tangible objects. So that includes books, papers, documents, photographs, tangible objects, buildings, places, or copies of them, any material to the preparation of the defense, if it's intended for use by the prosecutor, evidence of trial. So that's something. If the prosecutor is not going to use it, they don't have to.
Okay.
Give it to them.
16B5.
Now we have reports of examinations and tests. So what they're trying to say is that it doesn't include this. They know that they have to give them certain examinations and tests, but this is not one that they have to give them. So they're saying it's excluded. And
16G2.
16G2 is the one that's like, what? So prosecution information not subject to disclosure. Number 2, informants. Disclosure must not be required of an informant's identity unless the informant is to be produced as a witness at a hearing or trial, subject to any protective order under subsection, I can't even see that, 1
Under subsection 1
of this rule or disclosure order under subsection B6 of this rule. So why are we talking about informants? Like, did somebody say something? And then we find out that, yes.
So let's go back and recap so people can understand what's going on. Can we
Okay.
explain where this document came from so everybody gets an idea of where this came from? We're talking about the supplemental request for discovery for the DNA. This was a big thing that was covered over the internet over the last 2 weeks once this document dropped. This document is on the document, I call it the document dump website. And I'll drop that in the chat if anybody wants to go on and look at the documents that refer to this case. And Priya, it's genetic information, the person whose DNA matched with the suspect. How do we get from the DNA on that sheath to matching to the suspect? That's what we're going through here. We're trying to explain it to everybody because, again, we are not experts in DNA. We're not experts in legal documents, but with a little bit of Google researching, you kind of can figure all this stuff out.
Indeed.
And what happens is there's a lot of misinformation out there on channels. And what we try to do here is get things right or pretty close to being right without being legal experts, scholars.
So let's go back through this paragraph here with what we just said. So the state objects, and they're going to separately file a motion in limine, which basically says, here's stuff that we don't need to give to you because we're not going to use it. Protective order, we're not going to give you those trade secrets or how it was done, but we have whatever. 16A just covers...
it's a match of 99.99999.8%. So if you can get 0.00000.2% match. So you know what? It's a match.
Yes. And we'll talk about how they got through this. Right. So 16A is basically what the defense is like what they have to give to the defense.
Right.
But really 16B4, 16B5, it's just basically stating that I used an LY. Genetic research does not constitute reports of examination. So they're saying this genetic genealogy is not included in these in 16B4, 16B5. However, also that the informant is also exempt from disclosure. That's why we brought up 16G2. Right. Because all this DNA, the genetic genealogy testing. So what they did, they got the DNA from the sheath. Yep. They put it in a genetic testing.
Right.
And they got a short list.
Right.
That short list, they already had a list of suspects as well. So here is where I presume they had a list of suspects in one hand. They had a list of DNA people that could have matched family trees, that could have matched that sheath, and they cross-referenced them. Because the lists were small enough, they were able to do that. And that is how they found the Kohberger family tree and said, okay, this sheath DNA is matching somebody in this Kohberger family. So they said, okay, now we need to go and see how it matches this DNA family. But let's say that it matched a cousin. Like, let's say some cousin out there.
Can we have some eye rolls?
Okay. Let's say he had a cousin out there. What the prosecution is saying is, we don't have to give you that cousin's name. We don't have to give you that cousin's name. We don't have to tell you which member of your family had their DNA in the genetic testing site, because it's irrelevant to this case.
Right.
Then they went out, they got the trash in Pennsylvania, and they took that trash back. It turns out that trash was actually his father's. So his father's was then cross-referenced against the DNA, and that's how they got that 99.999969s in a row, to basically say that the sheath was a male descendant of Bryan Kohberger's dad.
Right.
So
That's
that
how
is
we
how
got
they.
here.
But what they're saying is, we don't need this. We don't need to give you who the family member was. We don't necessarily need all this information, because we have all this other information. Plus, remember, we're not privy to a ton of stuff, but they're not necessarily saying that the DNA in the sheath doesn't mean anything. They're just saying, we have so much other things, and we can't give you the information from the genetic genealogy lab and how they do stuff.
Okay.
So let's move on to the article.
Yep.
About genetic informants. So this whole time, how many months we've been talking about an informant? Is there an informant? There is.
There is.
It's a Kohberger relative.
It's a Kohberger relative.
I mean, yeah, if you think about it, if we would have been privy to.
All right, so here, let's stop here. Right here is the informant. Disclosure must not be required of any informant's identity unless the informant is to be produced as a witness at the hearing of a trial, subject to any protective order against subsection I of the rule of disclosure order under subsection B6 of this rule. And we have this article.
And there's no reason they would have to take Uncle Richard Kohberger and bring him in as a witness or an expert. He's irrelevant to this case.
So I'll read this one for you.
Go ahead. Thank you.
All right, so this comes from, what's that?
I'm going to get a drink of water.
Okay. So this comes from Nation World, and it was an article, and it said, took a DNA test, you might be a genetic informant, unleashing secrets about your relatives. The Golden State Killer suspect was arrested after DNA at one of the killer's crime scenes was checked against the genetic profiles of genealogy website that collected DNA samples. And it goes on to say, and I just kind of quoted the article here. This was written in 2018, April 27th, and Ashley May of US Today wrote this article. So it says into the next slide here, I just wanted to quote the source. The other thing is not, this is what we're really looking at here. So for genetic information, goes on to say in 2014, a New Orleans filmmaker was identified in an Idaho murder based on a DNA sample that his father had given years earlier as part of a church-sponsored genealogy project. The father's DNA was sold to Ancestry.com, and then he was identified to police after Ancestry received a court order. The suspect was later cleared after his DNA did not match evidence at the crime scene. Do you want to expunge on that?
Here's filmmaker was identified. Father's DNA. So what they did was they looked at DNA, and it didn't match. It didn't match. Yeah, filmmaker was identified based on his father's DNA.
But I'm just going back to the informant.
Yeah.
You're being a genetic informant, and basically they used that. It didn't match up, so he was cleared in the case.
Exactly. So, I mean, just because you're a genetic informant doesn't necessarily mean that. I think there's one more thing. Do we have one more thing?
Yeah, so we're talking about, this was very interesting in the search warrant.
Yes.
Bryan Kohberger's apartment. And there were some things that, I think a lot of people were talking about in the sense of, you know, the prosecution not working with the defense. And this is where I go back and I urge everybody to go and actually read these documents, because there's things, if people want to cut it down the middle, there's things being played on both sides. And I've always said this in any type of trial. It's chess. It's not checkers. And they know what they're doing. And actually, Laura and I came up with a very good determination as to why we think that this happened. So again, we're just making an opinion here, but it's a pretty smart opinion. When you said this the other night, I was like, oh wow, that could be a possibility. So let me read this these couple of paragraphs.
Yeah, let's do this.
This was from Stewart, was one of the officers that were present during the Pullman search warrant of Kohberger's apartment. So it says, upon contact with Taylor, which would be Ann Taylor, Bryan Kohberger's defense attorney, she showed me a signed letter from Bryan Kohberger granting Taylor's defense team access to his apartment to gather some of his belongings, but she didn't let me keep the paperwork. Taylor stated that she would email me a copy of the paperwork from my records. I opened the door and granted 3 of them access to his apartment. They removed the flat screen TV, a computer monitor, a small box of miscellaneous papers and receipts, a laundry basket full of books, and a medium-sized box that I couldn't see the contents. They were at the apartment for approximately 10 minutes, and I advised I could lock the door after they left. I secured Kohberger's apartment by locking the deadbolt. So I kind of circled this because this is very important. Before leaving, I provided Taylor with my business card, and I asked that she'd send me the paperwork that showed me the access to Kohberger's apartment. Taylor told me she would, and as of 1/24/23, I haven't received any emails from Taylor or her team. So if people always have been saying that the prosecution is not being cooperative, well, it looks like the defense is kind of playing that game too, if you want to play, you know, games on both sides. And it was funny because when I saw this, I said to Laura, if anybody's ever seen the movie Training Day, there's a part in that movie when Denzel Washington character and Ethan Hawke's character comes to Denzel Washington's Monte Carlo, and under the wiper blade, there's actually a Chinese food menu that gets left under his wiper blade, and he looks at Ethan Hawke's character and says, "Hey, grab that menu and put it inside the glove box. We're going to need that later." So he's kind of like, "What the hell are we going to need a menu for?" A little later in the movie, they go to serve a search warrant. Now, I'm not saying that Taylor did that. I'm just saying this is kind of what my thought was. You know, so when they showed up in the movie to serve the search warrant, they used the menu as the search warrant. And it's funny because they're kind of waving it like, "Oh, search warrant, search warrant." I'm like, that's the only thing that I could think of. Like, she's like, "I have the signed paper," and Bryan Kohberger, and just kind of like moves past everybody and goes in. But let me get to the next slide, and then we'll talk about why we think this actually happens, because it's another piece of important information here. So I'm not going to read the whole document. This was by Don Daniels, another officer that was present during the search that day. And I'm going to read this paragraph, and then we're going to kind of give you our opinion of this. So while at the apartment, I explained to the attorney I had forgotten to include the 3 samples taken from the apartment and provided her with a copy return of the search. She took the return of the search and took a copy of the amended warrant and item seized log from the couch. Members of her team, this is important, took photographs of the apartment and removed a receipt from a cupboard in the bathroom. I believe they may have taken some other paperwork items from the living room. I remained outside at the door during this time. So a couple of things I have questions about. One, they didn't get any look inside of the stuff that was inside that box that left, the small miscellaneous box. Okay. And another thing that's interesting to me, they took a receipt from a cabinet, whatever that is. Maybe it's a prescription receipt. I don't know, but I think that's weird. And 2, I didn't even see this. 3, I didn't even see this. You actually pointed this out to me. They took pictures of the apartment. Why would they do that, Laura? Why would you think they would have done that?
Well, we were talking about this the other night, and I was distracted, and I was just thinking, like, I have a million things on my mind, and then I sat down. And I said, "How else would you know what was taken in a
They
search
took.
warrant?" I mean, Bryan Kohberger is in jail. He can't go back to his apartment to see what they have or what they don't have. So he had Aunt Taylor take pictures so that way he could tell what was still left and what all
Mhm.
the prosecution might have. Now, remember, this was back in January. He wanted to know what they have, what they don't have. So therefore, he could get an edge on
Right.
things. I mean, I know if I had stuff on my desk at work and somebody came in and took stuff, I wouldn't necessarily know what they took unless if I couldn't access it, I wouldn't know what they took unless somebody could send me a picture of my desk. Now that also goes on to, does he have a good memory? Because if you have a good memory of where things were, you'd be able to say, well, that's out of place. And that's, I believe, very possible that he had a good memory of where everything was, what everything he had in that apartment left, and therefore he was able to look at pictures and say, "Okay, well, they took this, they have this, they have this." He wants to know what they have, and the only
It's
way he
interesting.
can do that is through subtraction. What he
Yeah.
knew in the and what he knew he had minus what is left, the rest is what the prosecution has. And boom. It's the
Yeah,
only
I mean,
way.
it's not a bad theory. I mean, I would say if I was fighting for my life, can you just do me a favor? Go in there and find out what they took. Can you take some photos around the apartment? That'll give me a better scope. I mean, the kid's not stupid. He's probably working on his own case as well too. I'm
Yeah,
sure he's helping and
absolutely. He
assisting.
has to be.
I mean, he's trying to attain a PhD at WSU in forensic, what is it, forensic pathology or forensic,
Criminal
yeah,
justice,
criminal
yeah,
justice basically. But I mean, he's not he's not stupid. And low 12 says very interesting, good point.
yeah.
That's what I would say. Can you go in there and just take some photos? I want to see what the hell they took. Um, so it's not a bad theory. Again, we spitball these things. We think that some of the theories that would come up could be possibilities. It's not anything that's set in stone. But we really wanted to go through kind of that DNA. I know it's a little past that now because everything has moved forward so quick, and it seems like every single day something new happens. We had the Dateline episode last night. We're not going to get too much into that. We're going to save that for tomorrow night. But let me get you, and Brenda thinks it's a great conclusion too. Thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
We work hard on this. This is not easy. These presentations, to put them together, Laura researches these for hours sometimes, and then she hands the material off to me to put into these kind of presentations and collages. And sometimes, she's better at just taking the lead on it than I am, and vice versa. But Laura, thank you for getting that information together. I
Oh,
think
you're
it's really
welcome.
great. Again, we're not legal experts, we're not scholars, but if you do some Google searches and read through the documents, you can figure some of the stuff out and time it together. And I just wanted to get some clarity and some good information out there to what we believe is good, solid information, because there's been a lot of bullshit surrounding that. And it's been a lot of just bad information about it. So, Dateline episode, we won't get too much into it, but I wanted to get your opinion on it. What did you think watching? I watched it early this morning because I didn't watch it live last night. I watched it about 6 o'clock this morning. And it was funny because you messaged me, I think at like 8 or 8:30, and you're like, "Oh, I have the thing if you want to watch it." I'm like, "I
Yeah.
already watched it." And he's
Yeah,
like,
of course.
"You're like, I knew it."
Early bird catches the worm.
Right. So, what did you think?
So, I took a lot of notes,
Me too.
and then I started watching it again and took some more notes.
Hmm.
Um, thank you, sis.
Thanks, sis.
I I I'm I'm going to take the things that were on Dateline as, reliable. They're not ones to go out and perjure themselves and put stuff out there. Um, so I'm going to take the majority of it and say, "Okay, you guys have, reliable sources and go with it." But there's a lot to be unpacked from that 2-hour episode. I know I'm gonna have to try to watch it again before tomorrow night and look over my notes again. Um, yeah, I mean, I I I wonder So here's what I wonder. That came on last night, Friday night.
Right.
Early Wednesday morning is when we got wind of the indictment, the grand jury. Dateline put that episode together in 2 days. Now, of course, some of it was filler, and, some of the interviews have been probably pre-done in anticipation of this time of year, but, they really had a lot of stuff they talked about. So that we'll go over tomorrow. I also was thinking back to the grand jury thing and how we were talking before, probably 3 weeks ago or so, when we said, someday we'll probably just wake up and they'll have a grand jury and he'll be indicted. Um, and that's almost exactly what happened. And also, I remember saying, like, why would Bethany Funk's attorney agree to an interview with the defense? Why? Why would they just say, okay, all right, you can interview her, unless they already knew the grand jury was in the works?
Mhm.
Because now she's off the hook. She's off the hook. She doesn't have to meet with them. She most likely did not meet with them. And so I believe her attorneys were ahead of it, and she had already received the subpoena at some point to the grand jury, or they were privy to the grand jury, and that's why they called their bluff. They called their bluff. So yeah, lots happened this week. Dateline, indictment. I'm sure 2020 and 48 hours will both come out with an episode, and who knows if there'll be any more little
I
things in there.
Yeah, I usually like Dateline stuff because to me it seems, pretty credible. Listen, I understand it's a program. They have to sell, advertising. They have to get people to um uh to watch. The thing that I think people don't understand, and I think this is a very selective hearing. Chemistry Queen says she just really wasn't impressed with the presentation by Dateline. One, I knew going into it, it wasn't going to be anything groundbreaking.
Yeah,
A
nothing
lot of the stuff that
earth-shattering.
they talked about has been things you and I have been talking about on this
Mhm.
channel for the last 3 months. So it really wasn't anything groundbreaking.
Exactly.
I think it was good that they had a friend of Kaylee and more Kaylee speak to as to what happened that morning and gave a little bit more insight to how the information was spread around. Um, and naturally, we thought that anyway, that people were
Mhm.
going to talk because that's what kids do, you know. Um, and she talked about how they communicate: Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok,
Yeah.
were the three biggest things. Um, what else did I find very interesting about it? So going back to my point, if you all go back and listen, where they stated things, maybe some things that we haven't heard about yet, they say, and it's the way that I know how these programs do it, they'll give you some new information. They will take you kind of away from it and bring you kind of another place, and then go back and say, well, this is what we might think would have
Yeah.
happened. That's to screw your brain up. So
Mhm.
there is, if people really go back and listen, they gave some, I guess, new information from sources, but it's not like solid. It's what you heard a lot of what we believe,
Investigators believe.
right? And that's so they don't get sued. Because if it's not
Exactly.
true, they don't get sued. But the other thing that I have to say too is that I would think, and the Gonzalez family's pretty smart, that I'm sure they probably knew of the material that was going to be in it and wouldn't necessarily sign off. I don't know what their agreement is, but I'm sure they probably know if something was way, way out there, they wouldn't, they would say no.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
but we'll get a little bit more into this tomorrow night. I think it'll make for some good show where you and I can digest our notes a little bit more and kind of run through it. I wish that we could do a walkthrough of it, but I
Oh,
know the minute I do it, I'm
right.
gonna get taken down.
Yep. I
It
was thinking
sucks.
that too.
But I'll try to dig up maybe some interviews that they talk about, or maybe a trailer we can pull some off that. I know I have some other videos that I have queued up that we may be able to draw some of that, some of the show from that as well. So Little Love says,
you.
great job, Brian and Laura. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. We really care if you guys are all first time watchers over here. I saw some new names in the the chat this evening. You know, what we do here is try to give solid, credible information by using the evidence in this case to come with our determinations. Again, we're not legal scholars, we're not lawyers, we're not experts. What we do here is more kind of water cooler sleuthing. So should we take some calls?
Well, let's see if anybody wants to call in.
Yeah, I'll throw the number out there. Let me just set up the phone. Maybe you guys can call in. We'll do this. How about we do, since that kind of is the topic of question right now, maybe I'll ask callers. If you want to call, how about you let us know the events over the last 72 hours. Has it changed your decision in where you've been? So if you call in, let us know. You know, I think all along that Bryan Kohberger is the suspect in this, or it's, my mind has changed a little bit where we're at in this case. Or you can even tell us what you think about like the Dateline episode. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more of that tomorrow on tomorrow's episode. But I'll throw the number out there. 774-855-9400 is the number. If you want to call in, we'll wait a little bit. If you don't want to call in, then we're probably going to just wrap this puppy up. We'll give it a couple minutes here.
Mm-hmm.
So 774-855-9400 is the number. I'm going to pin that to the top. And we'll wait a second. Let me give this a second. Let me do some housekeeping.
Yeah, Bobby Old Dude said Dateline is very reputable, but they also have to focus on ratings. Yes. Yeah, they got to get us in. They got to get us to watch it. Like Brian said, it was nothing earth-breaking. It was just some confirmation of stuff.
Yeah.
That
774-855-9400. We'll wait. If not, we're probably going to wrap this one up.
Yeah.
It's getting late. Sis says, I love your hat. Thank you so much. Everybody's like, call now, call now. Someone call. Come on. We don't bite. I'll give you 3 minutes on the panel. 3 minutes. We like to take calls. Waiting. Who will be our first victim? No, we don't do that. We don't do that. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. It doesn't look like anybody's going to call in. So that's a shame because usually Super Saturdays we get some good phone calls, but not this time around. It's all good. We will be here tomorrow night. Everybody's saying good job. We make a great team. Thank you. I agree. Laura's the best. She does a lot behind the scenes for this channel. Huh?
Thank you. I enjoy it. It's my hobby.
Yeah.
Of all the hobbies you could have, this is a healthy one.
So I'm going to do this for tomorrow night. I'm going to drop the link below in the chat. Please come over and join us tomorrow. We're going to go through, just give you our reactions on the Dateline episode that aired last night. And we'll go through that tomorrow. And then, of course, Monday is the most important day. Streams are going to be blowing up. We're going to have new video of Kohberger going in and out of court. Yep. Would you say can't wait?
Can't wait.
Yeah. We're going to get some eyes on him and start moving through this legal process. I will say this. This trial's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a while, and it's going to probably be 6 to 8 months before they actually get to trial. So be ready to sit and wait. There's going to be 6 to 8 more months of content, and then maybe a year of content after that.
Oh.
And, the thing is that we're doing this for the victims. We care about these victims. I wear the shirt in solidarity and just to, give our respect to the victims in this case. And that's for everybody. That's for everybody. So tomorrow night, come join us. The link is in the chat. We appreciate all the chatters this evening. If anybody clicked on some memberships and I didn't see them, I appreciate any super chats. I appreciate that as well. I got some donations through Cash App and PayPal while we were live. I appreciate all of that. Thank you so much. And we'll be back tomorrow. I'll post the link one more time in the chat. Set your reminders. We'll be back tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Laura and I live on the panel. I'm the Opinionated Idiot. We're going to take off from the mothership. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, Laura.
Bye.
Bye.